honestly, what am I so insecure about? Because I feel when you're compensating ego, when it gets triggered or something, you're compensating for something. Like the universe will always demand a balance, right? And that's not a healthy balance because you get towards feeding the ego with thoughts and thinking that you're great and that you're special and all these different things. And, is sort of, it's just like really shitty patchwork on sheetrock, you got to tear that shit down, you have to start from scratch. Like the wood's rotten. You have to get a new frame, right? And the biggest thing with me is just like why what am I so insecure about, And on the surface, I think it's like I'm living my dream. I have a beautiful home, like I have a beautiful car, like, I have this wonderful career that I'm grateful for. Like I have a signature guitar. I have all these things. I've toured the world, and and on top of that, you have people telling you that you're great too all the time. It's like fucking recipe for disaster. It's kind of like having a bottle filled with water and water and sand, and you're just shaking it over and over and over again. Like it's just like this fucking chaos of thought, but when you meditate, like you put the bottle there, it keeps spinning a little bit, but it sort of calms down a little bit, and then eventually all the sediment sort of collects in the bottom, in the middle, and you could just see it for what it is. That's all your shit. But you can't see it when it's spinning around. It's like this cloud of fog. Like it doesn't, none of it makes any sense, and people like, God, like we all live like that year after year, day after day. But it was when I started like really getting into like mindfulness training that I just realized it's like, yeah, I'm a part of me was actually afraid to release this new record because it's so different, and why would that trigger a fear response? Well, it's incredibly vulnerable. There's a high risk, and I thought to myself in that instance, because that was the thing that sort of like triggered a lot of things in terms of like my thought process, was this record, because I'm investing so much time and effort into it. And, and you think about, all right, well, why am I insecure about it? Well, for me, this record is a lot of, my growing up, what I grew up around, the people I grew up around, the music I grew up around, and that's not something I really shared like in black and white like this. It's not a record where it's a metal record with a salsa section. It's like from beginning to end, a salsa, samba, Latin fusion song, or it's this type of song, or it's this, so it goes really hard into the authentic blueprints of what that genre is about. And like that music's like my heart, like that's what I listen to all the time. I'm not necessarily listening to metal, which I think is fantastic. I think is great. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But so that was quite a it was quite an eye opener in that respect. And then I thought to myself, the question that tipped it over was, well, what am I more afraid of? Am I more afraid of being vulnerable and taking a huge, massive risk with this record? Or am I more afraid of not honoring an idea and acknowledging a part of me that actually exists? I would say the latter holds a little bit more weight than this superficial sort of like, I'm afraid they won't do, It's like, so that's when I started to really soften to the experience. And then it just sort of like, now I'm more excited about this record than I ever have been, because it's me, it's a huge part of who I am and where I came up from. And, and that was the way that I made peace for it. So I would suggest anyone, you ask the question, what I suggest people ask themselves, when you get triggered, just be honest with why you're getting triggered, and sometimes it takes therapists to help you, sometimes we're just, listen, if we were so honest with ourselves all the time, we wouldn't need psychologists, we wouldn't need therapists, we would just know what the problem is. It's not that easy, man. Sometimes you need to soundboard off a friend that you trust, or sometimes it's better with a stranger because you have nothing at stake, like they're there to help you, so that was my process, and what I genuinely feel it's worth for every person to ask themselves,